Hello, everybody. Rick DiClemente from Pittsburgh, and this is, I think, episode 11 of Astrology Unplugged. And I've been doing a lot of talking about astrology. But what led me to tonight is I remembered in 82 and 84, I used to have a radio show, a small radio show in the Wheeling, Pittsburgh area. And now and then I would have different guests on for various reasons. And the reason for tonight is a lot of people are quite concerned with where this society is going, what their job, what their role is, what can be done. They're not happy with the direction of the country, et cetera, et cetera. So rather than pity party and moping or listening to me, I decided to invite three of my very good friends. And they are a definite femme fatale trio. And I'll tell you about them and introduce them in a minute. Mainly because they have been frequenting a wonderful place called Domenher, which is in northern part of Italy. It is, I like what Gina called it, a beta trial community. It is a model community. Some people might see its roots down in a hippie commune way long ago, but this is much more than that. They got their own university. It's fabulous. I'm not going to do much talking. I'm going to turn it over to them. And then I want to hear about the things they're doing, the things they're teaching, things they're providing. They also have their own company, which is called Creative One Marketing. As you might see from the book, Gina is the one who inspired me to write The Exquisite Zodiac, and she was the editor of that book, and I much appreciated that. So I go back about 13 years ago, about 11 years ago, and I wrote an article for a local Pittsburgh magazine called Point of Light Magazine, and out of nowhere I got a little email message. It said, "Who are you and what do you do?" And I said, well, what gall to ask me, who am I and what do I do? So I was new in town, and I decided not to answer this weirdo's message. And a week later, I got another email that said, who are you, and would you mind telling me what you do? And since that moment on, Gina and I become very good friends. That is Gina Mazza, 1/3 of the group. Her compatriots are Leanne Heltzel, who is up in the Youngstown area, and Jennifer Ivanko, who has the bunny ears on. You can't find her anywhere because she's always all over the world. These gals have studied with, what's the guy's name out west? Deepak Chopra, yeah. They've studied with him. They've studied with Gene Houston, all kind of things going on. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them tell you about themselves. They have provided us with a very nice PDF that has their bio and Vike on there. John's working on the best way to get that to you, so you can download a copy of that. They will be telling you about their experiences with Domenher and trying to bring Domenher, I guess, version 2 to America, maybe, one way of putting it. I'll let you guys stay it straight, so I don't screw it up. But I'll largely be here monitoring, and at the end, we'll certainly have your questions for what we can do to make this world a better place, because people have already been doing it. And in the meantime, while they're talking, I will be flashing certain photographs up from Domenher, which is this incredible place. And you can all go to domenher.org, DAMANHUR.org, if you care to look around. So for right now, keep in mind you can chat with each other at the bottom of the screen by sending one-to-one messages or one to the whole group. But for now, I'd like to turn it over to Gina Mazza, and you girls will take it away.
So Rick, you didn't know that all those years ago I was asking you an existential question. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, I answered that already. Well, I don't know, and I don't know.
Yeah, nothing's changed. I'm still weird, and
no, you're not weird at all. Tell us about your story, Gina, you and the girls.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having the three of us on. We're truly honored to be your first guests. And hi, everyone. Happy December. Yeah, we thought we would just give you a really quick background on each of us, just so you can sort of have a context for what we're going to share later in the conversation about Dom and her. The three of us met when we were young moms. We all had little kids and were working in totally separate careers, different than what we do now. And I'll let each of my sisters talk about what their careers were at that time. For me, I was running a company that was an accounting and marketing consulting company and working in corporate marketing. And so within this context of being these professional young moms, we met, our paths crossed, and we just quickly aligned with one another and realized that we were all on what I would call a Gnostic path, a path to understanding the spiritual side of life through our own experiences. And we found in each other these beautiful mirrors that we could help each other reflect back what we were going through and how we were through that experience of opening our intuition, opening our creative faculties, really looking deeply, going in deeper and deeper inward. And it was a really powerful and really beautiful and important experience to have each other to talk to about these experiences that we were going through, to know that we weren't crazy and that, these unseen aspects of life are just as real as the seen aspects. And so fast forward, we continued to align, and we decided to share what we were experiencing with others. And so a lot of people who are from Pittsburgh might remember that we had a company called Epiphany Works, and that was our way of bringing the higher consciousness experience in a sort of benign, safe way to the masses in Pittsburgh. Our signature event was River Beat, which was a recreational hand drumming cruise on the Gateway Clipper fleet. And we had 5 river beats in over 5 consecutive years. So we became not just sisters on the path, but also started working together in business, started finding ways to align our spiritual underpinnings and our work together in our spiritual lives with the ability to share it with others and have others experience what we were experiencing. So fast forward to today, we've gone on many quests together, many different trips and retreats and experiences in different parts of the country and the world. And it was through Jennifer, who was told by her mentor and our dear friend Jean Houston about Dom and her. And so that kind of brings us current, and I'll let one of the other ladies take over from there.
Yeah, I just want to add to that there's another level too to the way that we interact together. Through all of these decades together, we've become more than just dear friends that share experiences with each other. We've really become these deep entwined mirrors, and we all seem to be following the same experience, having the same core experience in our own, individual way and in our own individual lives, but we can sense what the other one's going through. We just have this deeper relationship than most friends. And so it's helped us to completely rocket through our spiritual journey because we're not doing it alone. And we've often said over the years how incredibly lucky we are. And it is that collective, we've created this smaller collective, And it's what we're all here to do, to come together, to have that sense that we're all one. And we play with that all the time together. So it's an amazing place that we've been able to take our professions, take what we're strong in, and we've each integrated who we are as spiritual beings into our new careers. And we've decided to work together. And, you know, they say most times, don't work with family, don't work with friends, you know, it's just a nightmare. And it's been an incredible blessing for us. And so it's certainly a model that we feel needs to be spread.
Wonderful. Jennifer, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so, you know, I can't express how wonderful it is to go through this journey with two such amazing women as Gina and Leanne. And the thing that I wanted to share is we all need this mirroring it's not a individual that is going to go into this enlightenment, to go into this next level of consciousness. It is the collective. We rely on each other to mirror each other. So creating a community around yourself. And it starts with, it's not like a number of years ago we were looking to find that other person to mirror back to us. It was, we started to do the work ourselves. We started to go inward. And part of that was, what can help me on this path? And we called it in. And then, the synchronicities that happened that brought these two women to me. I don't know if you, Gina said we were all young mothers with career paths, and I was CFO for a nuclear hazardous waste company. Just very different career paths. And I had this little separate part of me that was into spirituality, and then I had another part of me that was this mother of kids, and they were all separate roles I played. And being with these two women and going on this path, I started realizing how I can bring them all together, how I can be just me in all of the different roles I play.
So what happened when you guys ended up in Dominator?
I get right to the chase.
Yeah.
Dom and Her has been an amazing experience. We first heard about Dom and Her through Jean Houston. Jean Houston does a lot of work in quantum. And so she told me about this place where they do research like spiritual physics and things that are quantum science, but they're also etheric. And there we go. Beautiful. So we went to Dom and Her, and it's a place, my first experience there was to realize when they say their version of namaste, instead of namaste, they say Kante, which means I am with you. And when they say it, it's not just words. They actually live it. You feel like you've just got a hug just by the words Kante. And it's this essence of that spiritual part of them is completely integrated into their everyday life. And they have a practical life. They have science, they have education, they have families, they have, everyday situations like we do. But their underpinning is this spiritual awareness.
So this is a community where people live in houses that they've built or they bought or rented. What's going on with the physical community? I know they have their own university.
Jean is really good at talking about the community aspect of Dom and Her.
So yeah, the Dom and Her was actually started by a man who is affectionately called Falco. And it was started 41 years ago, just as, again, an experiment. And it wasn't something that he probably set out to do initially as a community. He set out to do research on various aspects of life. He's someone who obviously was very gifted with higher consciousness and intuitive gifts from the time he was a young boy. And he was an explorer. He just wanted to explore these things. So he got a group of friends together and they started to do research on lots of different things related to metaphysics, medicine, science, all of these things. And it slowly grew into a community, what we might call today an intentional community, because they wanted to be in proximity to each other in order to, as the three of us were just explaining, live together, work together, explore together, be on the path together. And so just grew from there to the point where today it's been anywhere from between 600 to 1,000 people. A lot of them are residents, but not everyone is a citizen. There are people, there are 4 different levels of connection to Dom and Her. It doesn't have to be that you're a citizen. So there are people connected to Dom and Her from all over the world. But in terms of the number of people who actually live within the community, it's around 600 to 800 people. And it's actually not, as you would imagine, it's not a commune. It's not a place that's set off from other goings on in the area. It's very much integrated into the landscape of the entire region. So you have many people who aren't really connected to Dom and Her that live amongst these homes that are called nucleos, where the citizens live. And the nucleos are, you know, we got to experience them in many different ways and many different times of being over there. But what they basically are, if you can imagine, first, the wonderful Italian craftsmanship of just pulling together a beautiful structure that is integrated into the landscape with concern for the landscape and not just thrown together like we sometimes do here in the US. And you have that with about 20 people who are actually caretaking this residence and responsible for it in terms of the daily interaction, the upkeep, the cleaning, the cooking, and so forth. And they all share a common goal or a common interest. Like one nucleo, for example, will be people who are interested in artistic pursuits. Another nucleo will be people who are interested in aspects of nature or agriculture. And so you've got a family. You've got a family of 20 people. And it, again, is a wonderful model for a different way to live than we live here in the US. And I was really struck by that in an unexpected way when I first went over, because I personally was going through this experience of just thinking through how in the United States and other parts of the world, you know, the goal, so to speak, is to own a big house with big property and all these accoutrements. And I was going through this process of thinking, gosh, what a kind of waste of resources that is, in a sense, because we're all replicating, you know, we all need caregivers to take care of our children because we're alone. We need landscapers to come take care of our yard because we have this property to take care of, and somebody to come and clean the house perhaps. And we need to bring the food in from the, you know, grocery store into the house. And wouldn't it make more sense if we lived not as a throwback to the hunter-gatherer days, but in a sense, bringing some aspects of that existence into our daily reality, where we have a community around us who can support us. It makes sense, right?
And the other thing about community is there's little to know. Everybody's baseball. You can work outside of Dom and Her and make a huge income. You can work in Dom and Her and have a very small income, and everybody pays the same amount to live in the home. So everybody's equal. They have their own political system where that role of whether it's considered like more like a mayor or, you know, any level of the governance, you're constantly stepping in and out of those roles. So there's no hierarchy. There's no, that person's been in that role for, you know, 20 years or whatever. They take the ego out of community.
So what is it, may I ask, that keeps these people operating at a higher level, where they're constantly keeping in mind the health and well-being of the whole as opposed to the self, which you see so much in America, which is this theory of lack. I got to fight to get my piece. What is it beside the spirit of the place? What is it that keeps them understanding that what they're doing to the individual, they're doing to the whole, etc.?
Well, that's the whole focus of Dom and Her. You know, people choose to live there. It's not like, you know, I was born and raised in Youngstown, so here I live in Youngstown. They choose this path, and they, every moment of their day, they realize that I am here for the higher good of this community and the world and the cosmos, and they live and breathe it, and they learn it. Every Monday is their day where there's no excuses. The world stops for them, and they gather together, and they practice, and they learn, and they study. So they have this common thread of this spiritual base.
Why is it we don't have it in our country, in many countries? What's lacking with us that we've lost this, or we don't have this sense? How do we correlate the two?
Well, we're so diversified, you know, everywhere else in the world is so diversified, and we don't have the common threads that they have. And they really are a model. The UN has called them a model. So it's something that it is a place that they want people to come and study and see those little intricacies that make that work, and to take it back to their own communities.
Yeah, and Leanne, they also, an important part of Dom and Hurrian is their inner life. They are like, you were showing pictures of the temples of humankind a minute ago. These are temples that they built into the mountain. And the process of hand digging them into the mountain, these rooms, was a process of creating space inside space. So it was, everything is a inner meditation, or a journey inward to explore who they are. So they have their normal everyday life. They have to go do groceries, or do their work, or deal with the outside world. But the underpinning for all of them is this understanding that their inner life is as infinite as the outer life is, and to research. Everyone there is involved in some kind of research that is a spiritual back research.
Why is it so critical? I understand these people have gone underground and carved these things.
Look at that picture you have there is all the sacred languages from around the world and all the different cultures, all in a meditation in one room.
It's just
incredible.
Astounding, the number of them and the detail. Are these like their mystical doorways, their mystical vehicles, methodologies that help them stay focused? I mean, you must have some super brains there.
You have some deep, it's not super brains that it's all in their intellect. It's the depth that they don't. In America here, they keep saying we do astral travel, or we do past life, or we do all these different things. And you go different directions. But you don't go deep in something. And in Dom and Her, they'll give you, at the beginning, they'll give you a nice taste of all the different mysteries or the spiritual ways to go, but then they encourage you to go deep in something, in one thing, and really research and understand what it means to you, and bring out some wisdom for them. You know,
I understand how deep astrology works, and I did do the chart. Is his name Falco?
Yes.
And I understand he's passed on. He was a Gemini, and I did do his chart, which, because, you know, the head of the corporation or the head of an institution, the rest will follow. And he did have a lot of Aquarius in him. And I mean, the thing that strikes you so strongly about this place, it's so Aquarian. You have this great sense of going deep intellectually, going deep, and brotherhood. And it wasn't just his Gemini with his lateral learning. It was the depth of Aquarius, and I'm sure many other things. How do they avoid conflict?
Well, they don't, but again, they have an awareness that, as Leanne said, they're all choosing to be a part of this bigger, what they call a popolo, which is another word for people. So they're part of popolo spirituale, which is a spiritual people. And so they have that awareness that it's all for the greater good. It's not perfect. We're not, it's not a utopian society in the sense
right.
don't have a humanity about themselves. I mean, they're humans just like the rest of us, maybe even more so because they're exploring all of those aspects of themselves. What Falco recommended that they do when times of strife came up is to play it out through their art. And so they're very much of an action-oriented community. So it's not a place where you go and sit and meditate and say Om all day long. It's not like that at all. It's very active. Things are always moving. You get the sense that people are involved in their passion, involved in a lot of thought processes about projects that they're working on. And everybody has a huge project. It's really incredible when you talk to the people there who are working on things. They're really intelligent people. That's the kind of person that the community attracts. And it's also a very art-based community of using art as a means to express life and vice versa. So they have acted out different scenarios of conflict through game playing. And maybe Jen and Leanne, you can speak more to that. I know there were a few specific games that were utilized to confront, it's a community of people who aren't running away from looking at themselves. They run towards that. And so when there's conflict, the tendency is not to push it under the rug, but to put it out in the open and to work it out together.
LP asks what language is spoken there?
Well, it's about, I think, 60% Italian. So you hear Italian spoken, of course. But you hear all languages, a lot of English, of course, because there's people from all over the world, and English is one of the biggest languages. But because it's in Europe, you also get many people from different countries throughout Europe. So you hear all of those languages being spoken as well.
When we go there, we have an ambassador and a group of people that are with us that are translators also. So you always they go out of their way to communicate with us.
What is it? They're in their 41st year now, I understand. And any entity in the 41st year will have Uranus from their birth chart come opposite itself. For a human being, it's the midlife crisis. And there's too much emphasis put on that word crisis, but for a lot of humans, it is a crisis. But for an entity, it is a challenge. And I've just watched several corporations go through it. It's a challenge to meet the people of the world in a modern, new way of representing yourself. And I would think that this group has much less trouble making this switch than most people.
Well, this is definitely a pivotal time for them. You asked about conflict, and Gina was saying how they move towards conflict as a way to grow. Their nucleos are really for that reason as well. They live in these communities because it's hardest to avoid conflict with people that are right there to mirror it back to you so that you can grow.
What happens naturally to people who just aren't getting it? People that come by, I know you can visit, you can stay. People that come by that just sort of naturally don't fit I would imagine they're naturally expelled in some way.
Well, and I think the decision to become Dharmaharian is not something lightly taken by either side. You don't just, there's a period of time to experience Dharmahar, and they're very serious about the way they live and the rules they have. It's not for everyone, and they will make sure you fit that model. Or they'll give you. They'd rather teach how to live in community and have you live in community in the States, for example. It's not about creating everybody to become to Dharmahar. But I wanted to say about what you asked about the 41st year here, with Falco passing 2 years ago now, it's been a big transition period because they had a leader, and it was a pyramid where you had a leader who ultimately, he didn't run the politics, but he ran the spiritual aspect. So you'd have the political and the community needs, and then if things came to a standstill, he could step in and make the decision or say yes or no or give some advice. but now you lost that figure, and now it's becoming, they're having to step up and become more open to the world around them. They're doing a lot more of outreach. And from my observation over the last few years, they have gone through some major changes, and they're, I think, up to the task. They're really doing well.
Yeah, well, they're dealing with it, right? They're facing it, and
Yes.
they're got the right principles. Plus, they're already very Iranian. What is it what do the people in the outer community say about them? What are the people that are non-dominant Hurrian?
They used to.
How do they merge with them?
You mentioned the hippie cult. I mean, it was an Egyptian kind of hippie cult 40 years ago when they first, very quiet, very secretive. For 15 years, nobody knew they were digging these temples
Really?
underground. They were completely secret.
Wow.
So the community, of course, did not really appreciate. You're in a very Catholic country in Italy, and you had these strange kids out there living in the mountain communally. So they really had a lot of aggression against them. They still have, in the town, they still have some people that don't care for them, but they have done so many wonderful things for the community that they now are actually the mayor of that Vidacro. Is that how you say it, Gina?
Morocco.
Vidacro.
Elke asked a brilliant question, which is really appropriate now. How do they differ from a cult? Do I dare whisper that word in the present United States?
Leanne, Gina, you should tell the story when you first got there.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Oh, gosh.
Jen had gone before with Jean Houston and came back and said, we all have to go. Whenever Jen says we need to go someplace, we're buying our ticket the next day. And so I don't typically research things. I just know by faith that it's something to do. So we get there, and for the first day, I guess, Gina and I were scared shitless, really, because we're looking at these people that there's something in their eyes. There's something different about them. They're so happy. I had never seen people that happy before. And everything it's like you're really entering like a Dr. Seuss storybook. It's just so colorful, and everything just looks really different there. There's something that you couldn't put your finger on, and then we hear about these massive temples that were carved out by hand by people that weren't engineers. They didn't know how to make things safe. I mean, we were just like kind of freaking out. We're thinking, where's Jen brought us? Where's the Kool-Aid? Like, what are we doing here? And it took us about a day, and then we realized that spark that we see in people's eyes was this deep joy, and that we began to acclimate to who they were as a community. But it is really different, and I don't know how you define a cult. I don't really know how you define a cult. I know how we fearfully look at cults. These are people that do choose to live together.
I'll say something clearly. You and Gina and Jennifer, I know your charts well. You all have very strong Neptunes. And this group is obviously, and I'm not going to go far out here, this group is obviously being controlled, if you will, by Neptune. In other words, it's being decreed by spirit. It's being decreed by spirit. And now that's a wonderful thing in listening to what the Holy Spirit says, or whatever word you have and all that. But the problem with that, I see it firsthand all the time, is you get your weirdos. You get your weirdos that, I'm not going to go into names, but this guy lives out beyond this star, and he's sending you this kind of rays. And, I mean, it really is a fine line before the thing becomes weird. And it doesn't vibrate. It doesn't have wholesomeness to it. It doesn't have staying power. This obviously is, you've latched onto something that's real. And I understand that. Didn't you tell me, Gina, that they're thinking of expanding into the Americas?
Yeah, so I can speak to that a little bit. I did joke that when I first went there, it was kind of like Whoville meets Avatar meets a Fellini movie, right? And I did have this experience of, did I just drink the Kool-Aid? Did I just take the blue pill or the red pill?
Yeah, yeah.
And for us to feel that, for the three of us who've been on this path of inquiry for decades to feel that, you know, it's not like nothing really freaks us out anymore, is what I'm trying to say. And this place freaked me out because it was complex, it was deep, it was
Right.
deeper than I could
Real,
imagine.
real.
And it's real, and it's the antithesis of a cult, I would say.
Good point.
Having researched cults,
Good
I
point.
would say it's the antithesis because it's all about individuality. It's all about finding your inner temple and seeing the outer temple as a manifestation.
And Dominic would not make it through this Uranus opposite Uranus time if that weren't the case. Because Uranus is about your ability and your ability, her ability to be themselves. And they're finding a way to be themselves while being a group. That's phenomenal. And that's really what we need to have rub off on the rest of us.
And the
Because look how many of us are in churches or groups where you're just scared to death to think or express what you think.
I
It's
would
a
add,
marvelous thing.
I would add that that Falco used to say that the only dogma at Dominher is change. The only dogma is change. So they're not a static community. They do have a set of philosophies that they live by, but it's very much open to evolution. You know, they know that they're evolving as a community. We're evolving as a humanity. And so it's not like this is the way we've always done it. This is the way it has to be done. No, they're always recapitulating and looking at new ways to do things and what works, what serves us now, you know. And so
that's marvelous. Now, how are you ambassadors going to spread the word besides we're doing it right now? How's this word going to spread organically?
Well, I'd like to also address the when I first went there, I went with Jean Houston, and I was there to study a conference in Milan on consciousness. And we were listening to Irving Laszlo and a number of people speak on consciousness. And Dominher is very close to Milan, so we took a trip up to Dominher. And the thing that separates it for me from a cult is very interesting. They are really on the cutting edge of science. They are bringing research and science and esoteric and spirituality together. So they don't just take something for granted. And if you say, oh, I saw, you know, a vision or whatever, they don't go for that wow experience. They want to back it up and test and research and understand it. And that's a big difference. And
It's very Gemini Aquarian too.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. And, you know, as far as them reaching out to the United States and other places, they have ambassadors that go around the world. I'm in touch with their ambassador in Australia and in Croatia and a number of places they're doing work. And now they have I believe, Crotolo Sesame, who is the ambassador that comes here to Pittsburgh. He is doing a work at Harvard on leadership and consciousness. He's doing a conversation. He also talks at the UN quite a bit.
Well, you ladies, I'm sure this question is appropriate. It's not a coincidence here that you're my first guest on this small little show. Also, you get the label of being the non-quacks because I really don't want to have quacks on because I've been there, done that. But given the fact that we're so polarized in America right now, how do we get there from here? How do we get past the splitting that's happening towards the oneness that they're doing? What gives here? What do you have to say to the American people who are so fearful right now of change and radical change and takeover of government issues? What do you say? You talked about it, Gina, in your prelude. You said combining of paradigms or I forget how you put it.
Yeah, I
First
think
thing that comes to mind for me is to look inward. You know, that's the first step, right? Is to look inward. We all have the same soul. We all have the same core desires, and we're getting it out. You know, people are actually finally expressing how they're deeply feeling, and you know, it's not all pretty, but at least people are taking the step of bringing it outside. But we really need to all, as a collective, start to look inside and find those personal answers within us, right? Which is a spiritual quest to look inward. It's that in that realm that, you know, we're all going to start working through the fear and seeing that we are all together.
I've been in Italy, and there's this constant feeling that right down the street, right down the alley, the Pope's coming after you. I mean, it's a heavy feeling. The Pope is around the corner. You're not far, and that impression that it makes on the national identity is really super strong. So it's incredible that this is coming out of the same country. But it went beyond ideas. It went beyond thought. It went beyond just inner. And somehow it exploded through this super soul. It exploded. There must be similar branches breaking out in other places. I know we're trying it on our show. This is not just my show. We have a lot of consistent viewers, and we're sharing such elements.
And the thing that I really love about Dom and Her is their goal isn't to have little Dom and Her pods all over the world. That's not what they want. They want people to come and look at what they're doing and take back to their community what they feel works, what aligns with them. So that's one of my favorite things about them. They do view themselves as a humanity experiment. We're an experiment. We are changing things all the time. Come and see what you think, and see that it's possible, and see what works for us or what aligns with you, and take it from there.
Just astounding. It's an astounding principle. I was looking down our list here. I'm wondering if I could scroll down and find Kathy Pagano. Are you here, Kathy? Because Kathy really works a lot with Jungian psychology, and she's a fine astrologer too. And Kathy's real heavily working with goddess energy. Kathy, what's coming to your mind as you are hearing such things today?
Hi, ladies. Well, it seems to me that it's the community, and we might not have the same type of communities they have there. They've had it there for almost 50 years. But like the three of you getting together, I know that when I was living out in the desert, we got together, and if you work on projects together, you build an energy. And we experiment in our own ways, don't we? Maybe not quite scientifically. I don't have those kind of friends. But we experiment with ritual and with energies and with working together and creating, my young hippie children would call them love bombs. I had so many of them.
Out of here. Oh, what a magnificent story. Before I open the mics up to general questions, I would love for you, ladies, to give us some of your talk, because I know the Beatles went off and they did their own single albums too. So besides your group, which they can look up on your website, some of the things you're doing, such as the wisdom gathering sessions, Jennifer, etc. What kind of other things are you into?
Well, I have studied with Jean Houston for the last 3-4 years, mentoring with her, and it's been an amazing journey. But what I do now is human capacity, human potential, and I do it through these circles. I call them wisdom gatherings. They're virtual circles where people come together, and I lead them through the different layers of themselves, expanding into their physical, the psychological, the spiritual, and the mythic level of self. A lot of, Joseph Campbell work, or different things that I've learned from processes I've learned from Jean. I've also been studied with Deepak Chopra, and so I teach meditation. I have a series coming out called Anyone Can Meditate, because I believe it's important to find a practice that works for you. It could be a mantra meditation, but it could also be breath or something else. And
Okay,
then,
and remember, John put up here at the top, John put up this link for you, this one here. If you would like to download this PDF, you'll get the Vita and all the links for these ladies, the particular websites, and they're all available on Facebook too.
the wisdom gathering, I started with these two ladies, with Gina and Leanne, 2 years ago. They were my first, we had two other women, and we started every Saturday. We've met now for over 2 years. And
That's astounding.
yeah.
Well, you know, where my heart is, I want to say a few things. I do work a lot with people who, I don't know how to say it other than the fact that people, I've been reading for a long time, people don't come to me that much anymore with personal problems. They come to find their path. They want to know their specific way to help, to get to the healer inside of them. And people are screaming to become healers. And what I've learned very easily and simply, it's really a matter of getting, like Leanne was talking about, going inward and getting rid of the blockages, and then the path is there. A lot of people think they're going to find a path, and I tell them, well, if you find a path, it means somebody already made it, so it's not your path. So it's so much more about being, like you were saying, instead of doing, just being, and the path will just evolve. I'd like for you to speak to that, and any of you, if you're like anybody. This whole theory of let's get our blockages out of the way, and then the path is revealed to us. Whoever would like to take the stand here.
So I'll take that because that segues into the things that I do, because I have for decades had a gift that I didn't really want to own, and just kind of kept asking, okay, so what's my purpose? What's my gift? And this one just kind of kept staring at me in the face, and so I've recently decided to stand up and own it, and the only way I can get to the next place of purpose is to fully embrace who I am. And so the things that I do is I have a company somewhere over, which helps individuals in two ways. The people that are going through the dying process, I work with them on the spirit side and assist them in crossing over to make that process easier, because we've lost a lot of the deep wisdom that we've had through time to actually how community can help each other pass on to the next life. And I also work with people that have not fully crossed over. A lot of people, call those ghosts or whatever, and helping them to cross over. And the other thing that I do along with Gina, with our marketing firm, is we work with our clients in the meta space, and we tap into the informed universe, and we get all of our guidance for our clients and much more. And so I think it's all about that. I think it's all about stepping into who you really are and what your gifts really are, and continually asking the question, and what's next? What's more? What higher thing, what higher purpose could I possibly serve with?
Well, that's wonderful. I would like to take that and open that up to everybody else, because I think that's why we keep coming here. And there's some people want to learn more about astrology, so I give them a little bit, and then we zoom in and zoom out. It's not a typical course. And it's been true that we have been largely focused on this god-awful thing called an election for a while, which has taken us down a side road. But let me talk about that for 1 second before I open this up. Now, I'm addressing this mainly to Gina, I think. What I have found is the Pluto, as you've heard me do nothing but talk about Pluto for 8 years, 10 years. The Pluto thing has become so heavy, and there's so much ill-tasting things that we've found that are going down, and at the same time the seesaw is going up, and all these wonderful things. Look at the Just look at the colors behind Leanne. I mean, is this a Leo woman or what? Look at the colors behind her and all the possible flowering possibilities. So what do you see with the things that are going down and the people that look like they're being lost, and the seesaw that's coming up with all the people who are rising into new spiritual connections?
Are you addressing that to me?
Yeah, I think that's kind of down your alley. What do you see? I'm specifically talking about the seesaw. Things appear to be getting a lot worse and a lot better at the same time.
So I guess I would like to speak to the larger overarching dynamic that I have felt for a long time, that we've moved out of our previous eras or generations where we live to survive. You know, we wanted to get food on the table and take care of basic needs of food, shelter, you know, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And then we come into the second half of the 20th century and we're able to start thinking about things other than that. We're able to have the luxury to start thinking about, well, what do I want to do with myself after I've acquired my wealth or taken care of my family? And now we're in the new millennium, the beginning of the 21st century, entering the Aquarian age. And we're, again, so privileged to be able to have the time to say, I want to spend time introspecting on what my purpose is. And so a lot of people, you know, maybe it's just the crowd that we hang with, but it seems like people are coming out of the woodwork right now with trying to define, you know, what am I here to do? What is my purpose? And it seems like the trend has been that people are looking at how they're taking their individual gifts and bringing them out so that they can feel fulfilled within their own life. Where I see the trajectory headed in the next, 5, 10, 15 years is emphasis being taken off of the self, the individual, and that same question, we circle around back to it, but we ask, how can I serve with my gifts the collective? How can I serve the collective? Not how can I serve myself and my loved ones in my life so that I can feel fulfilled, but how can I play a role in the larger perspective of the fact that we're all just expressions of divinity, right? We're all just here trying to express, consciously express the one, or the one who made us, kind of thing. So that's what I see happening into the future, is that we move out of what's my purpose into what's my mission. Mission meaning, how do I take my purpose and apply it to the larger humanitarian goals, not just community goals or country goals, but us as a humanity. Basic human rights, equality of access to food, and everybody helping with sustainability to take care of the planet because we're all in this together. Those kinds of things, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you very much. I would, Marta is asking, how about planetarium goals, Mother Earth above all?
Well, okay, so back to Dom and her for a second. They have a huge part of their philosophy has to do with what they call the three mother worlds. And the planet Earth is one of them. And so it's all about everything that they do. They have a huge aspect of teaching and learning and practice in sustainability in terms of community living. Again, all which is research that's available to anyone who wants to study what they've studied and find out what they've discovered. But their philosophy is very deeply ingrained in this aspect that it's important for us to return to being able to live in tandem with nature. And they have a great reverence and respect for the natural world, the earth itself, Gaia, and our connection to the greater entity of the cosmos. So, you know, we're only just touching the surface of what Dom and her teaches, but that's like the general summary.
Well, one of the things that's so funny and ironic is I think back, and after I met you, you invited me to a book connection in northern Pittsburgh 10 years ago, where a bunch of fine ladies were together at the top floor of a bookstore, an intuition group. You guys were studying intuition. And I remember reading for your whole group, especially for what did I see specifically in terms of your own intuition. And it was very rich and very special group, etc. Since faded. But the point is that I want to say to people, you can come to this show every week. I mean, I welcome and I'm glad you're here. But just like Gina and I did, and we went to this little book group and started talking. We don't have to stay around TV and stay on the same miserable path. We can get out with 2 or 3 or 4 people and start talking, because somebody's reading these books. Ideas are floating around, and we're getting stronger and stronger to a common type of quantum perception. It's happening. You know? So with that, and with Robert having a very good sandwich, I would like to open it up to all of you. When you start talking, the camera just shifts to who's next. I would like to open this up and ask anybody if you've got any questions for our 3 guests.
I do.
Feel free to just start talking.
Can I say something?
Sure. Go ahead, Albie.
Yeah. Hi. I've actually studied Davenport for I think I got into it 10 years ago or something like that. I had their book and I poured over it, and I thought it was just the most amazing thing ever, you know, to have a place like that. And, you know, I thought about it quite long and hard. And I think what they are is, like you said, an experimental community, but they are the front runners of what's to come. You know, I think they're setting an example of truly what our next level, the Aquarian age, you know, and like you said, I think it's every good thing takes a while to take off, and they're experimenting, you know, they're coming from a very high level. And I love the part about, you know, studying and research, combining research with intuition, because that's cutting edge. That's what's coming. And the Maharishi did similar stuff, you know, and we all know now that, you know, transcendental meditation has been scientifically validated. It's real, and so the stuff that they're doing out there is real too. I'm really pulled there to that sense of community, because we used to have the communal living, and now we don't anymore. Like you said, everybody is segregated, and I'm living in this big house by myself, and it's absolutely ridiculous, you know, like, oh, I can hardly wait until people come and fill it, you know. But yes, that's, you know, the grandparents aren't taking care of the children anymore, and there's that disconnect from our root source, because we are a tribal community. We're a tribe, and we're lost if we don't have the tribe to connect with. And it is through the connection with each other that we connect with the divine, you know. So I want to go there one day, you know. I truly want to go visit, because I think it's just awesome. And I only threw the cult thing out there because a lot of people think about it as a cult. I know it's not a cult, you know. Cults have charismatic leaders that dictate to the rest of them what's up, and
quite happens a lot. Yeah.
And free will goes out the window, you know. That's not like that at all. So, you know, I mean, I'm glad you guys got to experience that. I'm kind of jealous, you know.
Mark asked you, do you see Mark's question on the screen?
No.
There are 2 questions on the screen. Mark says, has there been a study of the similar and dissimilar characteristics of Dom and her residents? In other words, members self-select to live there. What is common among them? And the next question is, I would be interested in learning more about the trip in 2017. If one of you ladies would be nice enough to put your email in chat, perhaps these people can email you direct questions about that trip in 2017. But back to that question, it says, what is common among them. Did you get that? What is common among, there's been a study of the similar from Mark. There's been a study of the similar and dissimilar characteristics of the Dom and her residents. In other words, members self-select to live there. What is common among them?
I see them as the desire to do that inner research. There's definitely a commitment when you come to Dom and her to follow their path. They have what they call their school of meditation, as Leanne was saying. On Mondays, they all come together, and it is a specific program. And so I think that is something that weeds out people that do not want to follow that particular path.
I see.
But when you go there, you have vegetarians, you have people that eat meat, you have people that smoke. Well, nobody smokes that's there, but you have people of all different classes, all different nationalities, all different interests. You have people that work in the outside world as doctors and firemen and teachers, and you have people that work only in Dom and her, and they all are part of the community. So it's a very
I'm sure there's lots of
diverse.
music.
Yes, music and art. That's a commonality. Is
That
the
makes
music
sense.
and art.
What is
And not
this? What is this? Go ahead.
Not necessarily people that were musicians and artists when they got there either.
Yes.
That's
All
okay.
those beautiful
That
couples.
makes a
That
lot of
was just-
makes a
yeah,
lot
that
of
was-
sense.
It was just regular people. I did put a link to the trip on Jennifer's site, so you can see that in the chat if you want to get details on the dates.
Okay, thank you. And Jennifer, what is you're calling your Path of Mystic Explore 12-week program?
that is one
Sounds
of
like a big risk to me.
No, it's a wonderful experience. It's a virtual experience. We come
12
together.
weeks of what are we doing?
We're going deep inside. A
Oh,
lot of the work.
Do we need a miner's lamp?
We're going in and exploring your quantum powers.
Oh
Quantum
my
time,
God.
quantum space, energy, time,
Oh my God.
healing, quantum
Is
body.
it guided meditation?
It's like a guided meditation, but we use the power of the collective. So we go in as a group in these circles. We connect as a weave and circle, and then we dive in.
Wow.
And as you create a density when you go into this as a group, you now
That's
have
really big. That sounds marvelous.
And you have to want to do some big work.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, some of the static is when the person speaks, this software takes over and zooms in on the person speaking. Sometimes we get a little overlay. Okay, others of you, don't feel shy. Any questions are certainly welcome, not out of range. I encourage you to ask anybody. Speak up if you have questions for the three ladies.
I also wanted to add real quick, Rick, that my trip in May, that Jean and Leanne will be hopefully with us too, but we do some wisdom gathering experiences before we go, so everybody is kind of connected as a group. There's people that come from all across the country that join me on these trips, and if you can't join me in May, please reach out to me on my email address, because I will help set up your trip. If you're going to go to Dom and her by yourself or going to be in Italy, let me help connect you to the people to talk to so you can get the tour inside of Dom and her and not just the tourist view of Dom and her.
The next question is, what is the average number of pounds that you gain? When I went there, I gained so much weight. I think I was busy drinking wine for 30 days straight. And man, I wasn't used to that.
You will laugh, Rick. I was just there for a 15-day intensive it was called the School of Spiritual Healers. And it's a second year, and it was very intense. We were working from 9 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night with little breaks. And so for 2 weeks, I was in Italy, in beautiful Italy, the land of food and wine, and I was having peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every night.
When I was there, I learned that you could drop your camera on the ground and you'll get a great picture. So I'm less impressed with their photographers after having gone, because my father left there when he was 18, and he never told me a word about Italy, nothing. It was the old country. He was embarrassed about it. He didn't want to talk about it. And I go 42 years later, I'm 26 at the time, and I go to this mountaintop at the top of the Apennines, just south of where all these earthquakes have been, and I look, and it's just absolutely astounding. And I said, this is where you're from? And down the road comes a man with this sheep, with the little stick, and he's got the little sheepdog, and he recognized my dad after 42 years.
Wow.
Didn't know he was coming. He goes, Alex, how are you? And they came back together. It was a wonderful sight. So it's very close to the Alps, is it not?
Yeah.
In the Piedmont, yeah.
The foothills, right? Which is what Piedmont means.
Yeah, that's the thing that we didn't emphasize too, is that Dominher happens to be in Italia. Okay, so you have all of that essence of it as well. You have the beautiful language and the food and the wine and the culture and all of that. That's why Dominher can't be replicated anywhere else in the world, because it's situated in a place that has that characteristic to it as well.
I think it really means biggest smile across your face whole time. That's what it means in Italian.
Well, to me, it was, we should probably add too, that we've been doing actual work with Dominher. We've been over a number of times. Jennifer studies intensely with the Mystery School and the School of Spiritual Healers and other things. And Leanne and I actually, through our Creative One company, helped relaunch their entire website to a world community, which is part of the 40-year return that you were talking about, because the mandate from Falco was to open up the teachings to the world during the 41st year. But for myself, being over there and working with them was truly like finding my second Italian family. I'm 100% Italian. So for me to go back and
Fabulous. Tell me about the night I was at your house and they wired up your plant.
Yes.
I'm talking about a green plant that grows when you put water in it. Tell them what happened when that was astounding.
Yeah,
and the people from Dominher were there. Tell them what happened then.
They've done decades of research on the consciousness of plants, and they've developed this object that it's called Music of the Plants, and they connect one piece of it to a leaf and the other piece of it to a root.
Like an alligator clip, right?
Yeah, and it's connected to a synthesizer, and the plant can sing. It can create music, and it's magical. But really, the whole goal that they had behind it was, if we can allow the world to understand that plants have a consciousness, then perhaps people can understand that everything on this planet has a consciousness. And it's a fascinating study. You can buy the piece of equipment, you can hook it up to any one of your plants, and to hear, when we took a group last spring, we had a woman that was playing the flute, and she was interacting with some blades of grass. Wow. She would place on her flute and the grass would do the same thing. And it's just when the one word that can describe and encompass everything with Dominher, whether it's their culture or their politics or their spirituality and their teachings, it's just simply the most magical place on earth. And
that's what it sounds like.
And the plants is just part of it. What
happens if you take those same clips and you attach it to people working in the U.S. Congress? Oh no! No.
But your greatest creativity comes when you play.
Yeah.
And that's when you tap into the flow, and that's why they do what they do, and it's amazing. But I wanted to ask, what do they do? Do they study quantum medicine?
Yeah, haven't really touched on the medicine piece. That's something that, again, is a whole topic in itself, but they do have a technology called Selfica, and it is based on a lot of ancient technologies that are also futuristic. So it's kind of hard.
Yep. I get you.
And I'll let Jennifer speak to that, but I want it because she actually uses some of the Selfic devices in her healing practice. But what I wanted to mention very quickly is the last time that we were over there with our group last June, someone asked the question about whether or not you had to believe in the technology in order for it to work. And the answer was no.
No.
There isn't a dogma behind it. There isn't a faith behind it. It's basically a technology.
It's science.
It's science.
Science.
Yes. Yeah.
It's right on the edge of esoteric and science. And their physical, their spiritual physics is a very interesting course. It kind of is right on that knife's edge. Selfica is fascinating. Selfica means spiral. The word means spiral. And it's, they have these, what they call Selfica cabins that are healing cabins. And they're doing, like you mentioned Maharishi and his research. I was very much involved in that back in the 80s in the 7,000 people meditating together in Iowa. And the research that he did. Now you go to Damanhur, you have people for 40 years doing research in a closed community where they've been really documenting and researching, and you have all these doctors who are doing health and Selfica research. These cabins, I did one this last time I was there. I had what's known as a frozen shoulder. I could not lift my shoulder up at all for 3 years. And I did this 1 hour treatment and came out of it and could lift my shoulder up right away. It looked like something out of Back to the Future. Whirring things, noise, kind of tapping, lights, black lights. I mean, if you went in there, you would think you're crazy. But there is a science. When you listen to them describe the science behind it, it gets very technical. But there is a science behind it, and it works.
Yeah, it's not woo-woo at all.
No, I get it. I get it. I've studied lots of esoteric healing methods, and the far out there, the better. And there is a lot to it. And like you said, it's bringing the ancient back to the forefront, because they had that in Atlantis. They had all these things back long time ago, you know?
Well, they're bringing back in the idea of awareness and attention and intention when you're working with these tools, and the alchemical, not just, you know, in alchemy, there's an aspect of time being one of the ingredients that we forget in modern medicine. We go into the chemistry and we do it, and then you get the pill, but there's time in there. It's so hard to talk about Damanhur because it's something that, as you experience, you get deeper and deeper and understand it at more and more levels, just like any spiritual journey. There's a surface.
Come on, Karen and Marta and Marilyn and John. You got ideas. I know your brains are very busy things. So let's hear what's on your mind.
Yeah, I don't want to hog all the attention here. I'm butting out.
Come on, Marta, what's on your mind?
I'm just fascinated listening. I've been thinking about, I need to do a trip, and I've been looking for what that trip is going to be, and I knew it was going to be international, but I wasn't sure where. And
Send me pepperoni.
Anyway, so it's kind of interesting that, you know, here's obviously something that I'm very interested in on many levels. So
wonderful. What would you suggest, Gina? 3 weeks?
I think if you know, Damanhur is a place where people absolutely feel an inner pull to go to it. They feel a draw to go to it. And a lot of times they don't know why. I mean, there's so many fascinating stories. A book could just be written just on how people find Damanhur and experience it when they first get there, and how they end up, in many cases, becoming a citizen there. The very diverse stories. So it's not for any of us to say, except that if you feel called to go there, then you should definitely go. I seriously doubt that you would regret it, because there's something there for everyone, and you leave the wiser. You know, there's something that you learn there. There's something that you heal there. If nothing more than just the beautiful connection with nature. You know, we didn't mention on this call yet the Sacred Woods Temple, which is an outdoor 100+ acre area above the temples of humankind that is available for people to walk. They have other sacred areas, sacred spaces that have outdoor temples and altars, and labyrinths, and the different labyrinths that have like labyrinths you've never seen anywhere else in the world. It's so extensive, and they focus on different intentions and different functions. So just even if you just connect more deeply with nature by being there, it's worth your while to go.
Well, the thing too is you can go to Domenher 4, 5, 6 times, and every time you go, you're just going to have a deeper experience. It's certainly not a place that you can go one time and go, okay, I saw everything, because it's got all of these really intense levels. So just
Okay. Here's a question, and wanted to remind you that you can just go to the website. It's got phenomenal items there, domenher.org, O-R-G. Question from Mark, in addition to global outreach, where does Domenher want to go or to become? What is the community of the future? What motivated Falco to establish Domenher, and what was his background?
So from my understandings with Falco, he was interested in changing the direction that we're going as humanity, as a race. It was very important to him. He had some visions, and there's different myths and stories about his life, but he had some vision about where we're going and the disaster that we're going as humanity. And there's a belief in Domenher that nobody's going to evolve just by themselves. We're a collective, whether, as a conscious collective. So we all need to come along. So that's why this outreach now, and it's not about, again, becoming Domenherian, but it's about having people find the gifts they have inside of them and what is the mission each person has inside of them, and help them fulfill their own mission of who they are.
Well,
That's important.
Kathy, as a Jungian, I'm very interested in your take all the time. What do you see? I'm going to ask you that question. What do you see? I know you study the greater collective and the shadow side, etc., and it's such a rich exploration. What do you see with the dark side? It's so evident now in the rising light side in our own country.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this beautiful, beautiful collective of people are like the leading way, the edge. They're the leading edge. And there's a lot of us, all of the people who have tidal wave dreams. Do you know what I mean? We're on the wave, and we have to start, to me, we have to start to gel into our communities and ground it in. And all of us, it's like, I'm going to Domenher. I've always wanted to, and now, thank you, ladies. I am definitely.
You're going now.
And I will get in touch with you.
Kathy is a Rhode Islandite who lived in Vegas for a while and back in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I'm a Cape Codder, so great.
Yeah, and I've worked with Jean online. I've done some of her courses, definitely. But it's that whole idea of community, but a focused community that actually, it may be not as many projects as Domenher, but that you get together to in communion, but also have projects that you're working on that you help each other with.
Kathy, I would love for you to talk with Patricia, because Patricia is up in your area too. And Pat is quite an astrologer, and she works as a Taurian at a very fundamental level, very similar to what you do. And Pat, what's on your mind? I'd like for you to join in the discussion, if you don't mind.
I'm more dead than alive tonight, Rick.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. You can check in with us next week after being
I
long
have.
nap. That's okay.
I have. Oh God, I have several problems. My blood sugar is real high. Haven't eaten anything since Saturday.
That's not good.
A nasty mess.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll check with you next week. I just thought she was saying an awful lot of things.
Normally, yeah, I'd be up for it, but not tonight. I'm just kind of monitoring.
Quite
Okay, well, let's us all send you a healing.
That would be lovely. That would be lovely. I would appreciate
Get that blood sugar down and eat something.
Now, Mr. Robert Burns up in the wild country, what's on your mind with what you're hearing tonight?
Oh, we're just enjoying hearing all about this community that we had never known anything about. It's very exciting.
Okay, Rick, I'm glad to see you joining us tonight. I'll be cutting this section out, so don't worry. I'm gonna cut this section out and stop.